We got it.
Wow, you're good.
We got it, Nan.
You got it? Oh, good.
I just said yes to everything.
Yeah.
No Colleen tonight?
She already
What?
left.
Yeah?
She was here, she left.
Yeah, I think so. Once I can get into the town site, I think we're there.
That's the trouble with, you gotta invest the time in the technology.
Yep.
Because if you don't do it,
I got internet.
like my wife never wanted to use it.
I'm pretty sure this is.
Job about
He's dead,
12
though.
years ago.
Yeah, I'll wing it.
Promotion, they were- she had
They'll
to
show
use
me all the good
it,
pictures.
learn all about it.
Okay, this looks to me to be close enough to 7 o'clock that we can declare it 7 o'clock. Welcome to the October 24th meeting of the Chelmsford Planning Board. We are being recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia, and is anybody else recording us? Just let us know if you are. And with that, let's get to it. I've got two administrative reviews here. 11 Cushing Place, request to sign Mylars. Do you have any information on that, Evan?
Should have a letter from.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, let
Okay. Do we have a letter?
it- Yeah, let it, Tim.
This is 11 Cushing?
Yep. 11 Cushion. Dear members, this office has reviewed the site plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates, consisting of 12 sheets dated August 6, 2016, revised through July 11, 2018, and a supplemental data report dated November 2, 16, revised through July 2, 18, and printed on October 17, 2018. This office's concerns have been met sufficiently and the plans have been revised accordingly. We recommend endorsement of the Mylars. If you have any questions, please contact this office, Christina Papadopoulos.
Very good. So you're good with it? Anybody here have any thoughts?
You want a motion to endorse?
I would accept a motion to endorse.
As to-
And I have a second over here. All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, then get it over to me and I'll get it signed up. Second one up is 297 Billrica Road. This is a CEIOD, request for applicability finding. This is DCU, for applicability surrounding a generator and some parking. And I gather you're it?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. For some reason, they're everywhere else except for here right now. Essentially, we're here tonight to. Do you want me to unplug it and plug it back in and see if it comes up?
She don't wanna go.
Oh, well, we'll use
Okay.
the little screen.
Good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. We're here tonight for a CEIOD or BAOD applicability for the DCU Operations Center that's now located at 297 Billrica Road. There's a couple of projects coming up, and that's why I'm showing you this kind of overdrawing here of the whole entire locus. Essentially, the idea is that DCU is going to grow in this building and grow in the number of employees. They're eventually going to need a parking garage, which is something they've spoken to the town about previously. In doing that, it'll eat up a lot of that back parking lot essentially. Coming up, and that's why I'm showing you this kind of over. We're watching it on TV too.
Watching Katie, 'cause I can't see the.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Essentially, there's a bigger project coming eventually. We're not ready to show you the garage yet. We're not ready to show you the size of it, the location, the elevations, the footprint of the garage yet. But we absolutely need to get this generator installed for the operation of DCU in this location. And that's why we're here tonight, is basically the generator. Here we go. is located, we're proposing it at the lower left-hand side of the parking lot and lot location. That location is fairly close to where their electric room is today, and it's also out of the way of this potential proposed garage. It's also out of the way of the existing parking lot that's there now and kind of the furthest parking spaces from the lot. In an IA district, we would need a 40-foot setback, and because this generator building is over the 250 square feet allowed by an accessory building, it's about 750 square feet, it would have to meet side setback, which would put it in the middle of the parking lot. We'd like to not do that. We'd like to put it in the back corner, essentially eating up 9 spaces that are there today. We would also need a special permit when we come back. This is obviously not the public hearing portion. We have to come back for a full site plan approval. But for a deficit of 9 parking spaces over what's existing there today, because obviously the current operations, they don't have that many employees there now. They won't need those 9 spaces in the interim to essentially get special permits for both the generator building and the deficit of 9 parking spaces. What I have here for you is just to kind of show you where it is. It's in that back corner of the parking lot that you see in the lower, next to the shed that exists there in the lower parking lot.
Okay, I see that, yeah.
It's actually adjacent to, well, it's about 90 feet away from the Comcast building, and you can see the end that we're closest to is actually
Okay,
all the loading docks. So there's actually no windows on that side, and it's all loading docks on that side.
yeah.
So it's not close to proximity of anybody who's going to be sitting at a desk looking out a window. There's also a good tree line there that we're not going to be affecting by this project. So we're here tonight. I know that's a little more explanation that you probably need for the BAOD, but it's a weird application because it is just the generator, but it is to support, obviously, DCU's expansion into this building moving forward. So we wanted to bring it to you tonight.
Okay. Very
That's
good.
all.
Well, it's an interesting use of COID and BAOD, but I don't see that it's problematic. Anybody on the
I'm fine with it.
board?
Katie, how far is it from the open garage doors?
It's about 90 feet. 90 feet from the corner of the building at Comcast
Okay.
to the structure.
There's issues about having open doors. That's the only reason I was asking if,
Okay.
and it's gonna be diesel.
It's going to be fully enclosed, and I believe so. They're specing, it's a Caterpillar generator. They've gone
That's
through
diesel.
some of the environmental permitting already.
Yeah. I don't have a problem.
They needed to run the servers, yeah. Evan, you got any thoughts on it?
No, I agree. It's somewhat of a unique use of COID, but I think
Why not?
within the larger context of the full build-out,
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
it fits in pretty nicely.
Would you like a motion?
I would love a motion.
All right, I'm gonna give you a motion to give a positive vote for applicability on the 297 Billerica Road project.
Second?
I got a motion, I have a second. Any further commentary?
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
So we're not sure if this is diesel and natural gas?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry. The electrical engineer is designing the whole thing.
Okay, but we're gonna know when we see.
Oh,
it.
absolutely. This is not the full packet of information. It is diesel. Okay.
Diesel.
Sorry about that.
Diesel.
Okay, so there'll be a diesel tank buried there or above ground or
They're
something?
usually self-contained.
Yeah.
Sort of embedded into the slab.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Sue
Okay.
Moncrief, who's an engineer with us at Howard Stein
Gotcha.
Hudson. So
When you get to the garage, make it big enough. You don't wanna do it twice.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm fully in favor of this.
Okay.
And I appreciate DCU coming here.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
It's unanimous. You want to write that one up and we'll do the honors when we get it? Okay. All right. Next up, we have looks like a couple of new public hearings. 11 Winslow, looking for a special permit, accessory structure special permit for a large garage. Do we have anything to read?
Did you open that public hearing?
Yes, I did. This is opening the public hearing.
I was gonna read the notice now.
Yep.
Legal notice, the planning board of the town of Chelmsford, we hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 24th, 2018, at 7 PM at the town office, 50 Billerica Road, to consider the following application. Hearing begins at 7 PM. 11 Winslow, Kevin Shield, is seeking a special permit under 195-11, accessory structures to construct a 28 by 36 accessory garage that is over 900 square feet on a conforming lot and will meet zoning setbacks and any other relief deemed necessary. Files and plans are available for review in the Community Development Office of the town offices between 9 and 4, Monday through Friday. Engineering has no concerns. Center Water, no concerns. Police Department, no concerns. And CDD, no concerns.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. I guess before we get the general public talking about it, is there anybody here that wishes to discuss the project in its particulars? You know, the proponent? In that case, we have a public hearing. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this? Are any neighbors here? Anybody? You're the owner? Would you like to say a word? Just tell us what it's about? Well, step up and identify yourself.
Kevin Shielder, 11 Winslow Road. It's a two-car garage behind the house. Storage of a boat. I have a boat and some wave runners right now.
Okay,
Storing them in another car.
gotcha. Very good.
Nice.
Well,
The land where it's on right now is already level where the.
gotcha. So it's just lay down the slab and
Yeah.
put on the, okay. Very good. Got any thoughts?
Yeah, like how far are we from the house and from other neighbors?
I don't know why the house isn't on that one. There's the neighbor to the right is the only one that can see it. He's
Rough.
he's probably, I think he's about 120 feet from my house, so he's probably
Okay.
half of that. My house is right.
Yeah,
Why
show
don't you
us.
point us?
It's right here. I'm this way.
Okay, so that's sort of the driveway going into it.
Ah, okay, I get it.
I'm not sure why that got deleted, actually.
There we go.
There we go, now we
That's the one we
Say
want.
it's not on. Yeah.
now we're cooking.
What's that number up there, 35 feet?
This is 55, and
No, down to the left.
Well, that's the existing house.
Up, yep.
Yeah, that's what's existing.
Yeah, it's
That's a
existing.
house.
Existing house, okay. Oh, where's the new building?
Right in the back.
Oh, up on the top, sorry about that.
Okay,
behind me is another, there's actually, the house behind me, can't see from my house, but it's get large, it's got a 100-foot barn behind me.
okay.
Okay. Very good.
So basically, the only issue
Yeah.
with this is that it's a separate structure that's bigger than a shed,
Yeah, and it needs a permit.
Yeah.
and it
right,
needs a
just-
permit.
Okay, I don't see any issue there. Is there anybody else from the public who would like, neighbors perhaps, who would like to say anything one way or the other on this? Well, this would be an awfully quick public hearing.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have motion. I have second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, any
Mo-
thoughts?
Motion for the special permit for 11 Winslow, under 195-11 accessory structures.
Second.
Motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? You're all set.
Good.
Thank you.
Talk to Evan to get the paperwork sorted out. Okay. Now we have another public hearing. This is 272 Old Westford Street. Special permit to construct a farmer's porch on pre-existing non-conforming on front setback on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. 272, Laura Lindberg, you here? Would you like to tell us a bit about the project?
Sure. So this is the old corner store at Roberts Field.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
We bought it.
Yeah.
Nice.
That you did.
Thank you. We are in the process of getting our permitting all set. We've gutted the inside.
Yeah, I saw the signs up.
Proposing it's going to be a completely new look to the place. So part of what we wanted to do was put a front porch on the entrance side that goes 8
Understood.
feet out and the length of the building. We are doing new ceilings inside, vaulting everything, and because the roofing was failing, and our contractor said, for not much more money, do a new
Do the whole
vaulted
darn
roof,
thing.
get a farmer's porch, and we said, definitely, we need to do that. So just kind of adds to the whole look of it. It's going to be a nice little coffee shop, rustic, upscale rustic, but I think you'll be pleased with it when it's finished. So we have this porch here. We had our site engineer, Hushi, at TAJ do the parking, and I guess we got some feedback from the police department that they want a granite retaining, some sort of guardrail
Yeah, to keep people
between
from
the
rolling through.
porch and the parking spaces up here at the building, and I guess on this side too. So we're wondering, maybe instead, that does, like, the parking now just kind of up to the creek, and there are guardrails there that are falling over. We knew we had to replace them anyway, so we're thinking of just not doing the parking this way, aiming the parking back the way it goes, taking out a space, and, the first one would be the handicap as it currently is. And it gives us a couple spaces over there, plenty of spaces on the back, still kind of going to the back. The dumpster, according to the Board of Health, can be barrels behind the building because we're so small, as long as they're enclosed. So we'll still not.
Allowing it in other places.
We're allowing barrels.
Yep, in certain situations.
With the rats, we're allowing barrels.
You cover the barrel.
Kate's
They
Corner.
have to be
Cover
enclosed.
'em.
So they are
Okay,
gonna be
just keep
enclosed.
going, I have issues.
You do.
So we're gonna just not do the parking this way. We'll instead keep the parking as it was, aiming towards the water, so that we don't have to have a guardrail up against the building.
Okay.
So other than that,
All right. Well, let me ask a question here. What's before us right now is a special permit to construct a farmer's porch. So I'm not sure
I
that
was
the
told
rest
to-
of this is an aspect, is in play right now.
I think I just had to have all of this done
Yeah.
for this meeting, so.
Might
that's
as well,
what-
yeah.
Yeah, I advised the applicant to show a parking plan.
Good,
with the-
okay.
Figuring that the board
But-
wanted to
yeah.
see something.
Right.
just
But
back to the-
what we're actually dealing with right now for a permit is strictly the
The
porch.
structure, correct.
Okay, yeah, we have a couple of things to read?
Yep.
Take it away.
All right. The Planning Board of Town of Chelmsford will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 24th. The town officers consider the following. Laura Lindberg, 272 Old Westford Street, is seeking a special permit under 195-8E2 to construct a 8-foot by 34 farmer's porch on pre-existing non-conforming structure, front setback, on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. Lot area, frontage, width, and any other relief deemed necessary. Filing plans are available for a review in the Community Development Office Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. Engineering, no concerns. Center water, no concerns. Fire prevention, no comments. Engineering, no comments. Board of Health, no comments. Oh, there's a couple of different sheets for center water in there also. Then, board members, please be advised that as the building commissioner for the town of Chelmsford, a zoning review has been requested by the applicant, Laura Lindberg, for the property known as 272 Old Westford Street to construct a new 8-foot by 30-foot, 4 inches farmer porch on a pre-existing non-conforming structure. This office has denied the request and seeks the proper approvals for special permits or variances from the board and any other approvals deemed necessary. 195-8E setbacks. If you have any questions, please contact Sean Shanahan, Building Commissioner.
Gotcha.
And then the police department, as she stated, has a few, I'll read them. Number one, a bike rack should be considered. 2, designated employee parking in back should be considered. 3, ADA signage needed for parking spaces. And 4, painted crosswalk walk through the parking area from the bridge to the front door should be considered.
Okay.
And that's it for letters.
Very good. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's run it by the board and then we'll open it up.
No comments.
Well, actually, I do have one. What you're showing there, those are 2 lots, right? Because
That is the combined 2 lots, yep.
Okay.
Okay. Now, could you point out exactly on there where the porch is? I presume it's on the left-hand side of the building?
This little rectangle.
Okay, and how close is it to the, to Old Westford? What's the,
So this
that's
is-
the,
Nope, this
yeah.
is the road. This is
Okay.
like the sidewalk.
Yep.
This is part of that planter that's
Yeah.
currently there, and then a little more walking space, sidewalk, and then road.
okay, and how much space is it to the lot line? I think that's what we're granting the, what we would be granting the special permit on,
So,
among other things.
like, it doesn't go any closer to the road.
But what is the distance? What's the number?
4 foot 11 inches to the sidewalk.
Okay.
Okay.
But this porch really doesn't get any closer to the road than the building itself, right?
No.
Because it's on that side.
That's where the gas pumps used to be on,
Right.
on
I
this side
recall.
anyhow.
Anybody?
No,
else
I have
on the-
no comments. I'm actually glad to see this happening.
Glad to see it get
Yeah.
used.
Just one comment.
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, if the police department told you about, we read about stuff, should sort of follow what they want. We'll make it part of our decision probably. And on trash containment, that will become an ever-increasing issue this next year in town
The use
Because
of
of
barrels for
rodents.
dumpster.
because of rodents. The rodent population is up, not just in town, but in a lot of wide area in the state and other states. So the proper containment of your daily trash, food waste is gonna be an up-and-coming issue. Not from us,
Yeah,
but from the Board of Health.
right. And I've talked with Mark about everything going on with us. We've really been in touch a lot and kind of given me some guidelines, like enclosed. We kind of have these, nice heavy plastic Rubbermaid containers in that lock and have all 4 sides.
Yeah, you don't want that's
Yeah.
my only comment.
Neither do I.
Nice project,
Okay,
nice project.
good.
Just for clarification, is the porch elevated? Is it step up or is it at grade?
So that kind of remains to be seen.
All right, so I think
I
that's why.
I had wanted an actual wood flooring porch, and our architect I said, the pictures never really show that, and he says, we might be better off with like a patio, just kind of like a
Okay.
paver patio with the covered
That's what the police
roofing.
department is
Yeah.
flagging.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, 'cause
based on
that-
the fact that it's not all at grade.
and it does bring you ADA issues.
Yeah.
Or
Well, we
reduce
would
them.
need a ramp, yeah.
Yeah.
If it is a porch, it would have a ramp.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody on here, this is a public hearing, so I guess we open it up to the public. Would anybody like to comment on this project? Any thoughts?
Motion to close.
Motion to
second it.
close the public, who made it?
Oh,
Tim
Tim made it.
threw it out already. I'll second Tim.
Okay, moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any further discussion on the part of the board? Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see our decision on this state that it is specific to the farmer's porch and makes no decision about any other details on this, on the submitted drawings. And the
Thank-
reason is that what I heard is that the parking currently planned is not the parking that's shown on these drawings.
Okay, I think that makes
You want
sense.
to see are you saying you want Evan to bring the written decision to the meeting?
No,
Wants to
I
see
just
it?
want to make note in our findings that this is only making a decision on approving the porch.
Okay, well,
Okay,
well, I'll check it when it comes by for me for
Yeah.
signatures. Is that, that's doable? Yeah. Okay,
you want a motion?
yeah, I take a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the special permit for the farmer's porch only
Yeah.
for Laura Lindbergh, 272 Old Westford Street, under 195-8E2.
Second.
I had a motion, I have a second.
Old Westford,
Old Westford Road.
Yeah,
okay, on the agenda, they got it as street.
right, you're right, it is road.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, we have second?
Second.
Oh,
There you
well,
go.
Oh.
third.
Sorry.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, permit granted,
Thank you, thank you.
and,
You can make a note, I'm leaving.
okay, gotcha.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Are you coming back? Or?
No point, this is the last thing up.
Tried to give him an out.
That's a shitty ball game.
Okay.
It's nice to finally doing something with that.
Yeah, I'm glad, I'm really
Yeah.
glad to see that place.
Yeah.
And I'll even stop by there and get an ice cream
Oh,
cone
yeah,
from time to time, you know?
Going quick.
You're not plugged in.
Game starts at 8:09,
Hmm.
but who's counting?
You'll see all the good stuff in the highlights.
Yes, that's right, you always do.
Did you make the whole game? I fell asleep.
I actually, I kind of fell asleep in the middle, and I woke up just in time to hear, was it Nunez put it over the fence for 3 runs?
Yeah.
You know?
He said there was another rainbow
Oh, that's
this
good.
afternoon.
There we go.
Good sign.
There was one at the last game.
Yeah?
And there was one when they won in, what was it, 2013?
Yep.
Yeah, rainbows are good.
Okay. Oh,
Hopefully we get some rainbows out in L.A.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not sure if it's good for them or us.
Yeah. We'll bring it with us.
okay, 24 Misty Meadow Road.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. I'm here tonight with the Doyle family who owns 24 Misty Meadow Road. We were here a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, you didn't have a quorum that night.
Yeah,
So
sorry
we're back
about that.
tonight.
My apologies.
It gave us the opportunity to go back to the Conservation Commission as an update to all of you, and the Conservation Commission was able to approve the project and are issuing an order of conditions for the project. We also had the opportunity to work more with Christina Papadopoulos, your town engineer, and make sure that she was all set with the drawings. We just have a few minor tweaks left to make to clean up the drawings prior to Mylars. To update you, there's a pretty big package that was submitted to you quite a few weeks ago with a pretty lengthy response. At the last hearing, we were still a little unsure what was going to be happening to Lot 7, 8, and 9. And also, we had letters from the abutters and also a letter from your town engineer that I wanted to respond to in narrative form, which the board requested at the last hearing. So you have a pretty lengthy letter in your package along with some plans. Just to kind of quickly overview, this is a presentation I prepared for Conservation Commission, but it helps you understand the parcel a little bit more. This is the entire parcel. The green is the wetlands and the blue are the different rivers that are throughout the project. So you can see where we're essentially building on about 7.5 acres of the 40 acres. The other 2 lots, lots 7 and 8, one will go to the Stott family. The other, we're working on a proposal with Mr. Parley, who is on your board, who wants that parcel at the lower side of the lot adjacent to his property. And that remains, that gives you lot 9, which is essentially open space, which is 26 acres of the 40-acre parcel. It has a significant amount of certainly of wetlands, of rivers, but also a pretty substantial amount of wetlands, uplands that you can see in the white. That's the leftover parcels. We're coming in off of Bridle Road, which is the most sensitive way to come into the site as it relates to the resource areas, and the Conservation Commission has approved a crossing of the wetlands as you come off of Bridle and a small wetland filling and replication area there. But you can see the majority of the subdivision itself. The yellow is the buffer zones of the Conservation Commission. You can see the white areas were outside of the riverfront areas and wetland buffer zones. The plans have been changed a little bit, like I said, per the last meeting that you saw. So you've had the package now for probably about a month, and Christina Papadopoulos has reviewed these. In our Some of the things that was discussed previously that I'll go over was we hadn't done a cut fill analysis. We have run through the computer program to determine what the cut fill is here, and we're at about an 8,000 cubic yard fill, which is about 600 truckloads of material. Now, I started to discuss this last time as to why, and I think what you've heard from a lot of the neighbors is that they have pretty substantial water problems. The reason they all have water problems is because all of their homes were built in the water table, essentially, and they all have sump pumps, which were cut off from the town drainage system when the town sewer was brought in. So some of the pictures that you saw previously of the flooding was actually, you could see the hoses going into the flooded areas, and that's essentially them pumping the groundwater from their basements. So each of these proposed houses, and if you look in the locations of the houses, are in about 3 to 4 feet of fill at each of the homes' locations. And that's to make sure that the basement slab of these houses is outside of the water table, which is important to not cause, obviously, to push that water somewhere else and or to allow that water to enter into the new home's basements. This is essentially how those homes should have been designed in the first place, to keep them outside of the water table. So the water table on this parcel is fairly high. We have a water table between 2 and 4 feet. What we tried to do is limit the amount of fill material being brought into the site to design the road. The highest location of above existing grade is at the crossing. Reason being that we have to meet stream crossing standards in Massachusetts, which I'm sure you might not be entirely familiar with those, but our little drainage ditch that goes through there, which essentially takes the water from Bridle Road, takes their drainage, and it takes the gentleman to the south on Bridle Road's foundation drainage, enters onto the subject site and creates an intermittent stream. So our little trickle of water is now spanned by a 14-foot culvert. And that's because of stream crossing standards. So we now have a crossing that allows for animal passage and it allows for water passage through the subject site. Some of the other issues that we talked about last time was just how wet this parcel is. And I have a piece of paper from your GIS if you'd like to see it, but essentially every single drainage system on this lot starts at a pipe from a town road. Every single one. And there are 10 pipes that discharge onto this property of drainage that comes from everywhere, all around this property. And it gathers in this property, it creates the wetlands, it gathers down by Pine Hill Road, crosses under Pine Hill Road, and eventually ends up in the wetland system adjacent to Beaver Brook on the opposite side of Littleton Road. So what we've tried to do with this subdivision, this planned open space subdivision, with 40 acres with a significant amount of wetlands and uplands, is use your planned open space bylaw. What that does is it allows us to shrink the lots to as much as 15,000 square feet with 50 feet of frontage. There's only one lot on this plan that's less than 40,000 square feet, and I believe it's 36,000 square feet. So what we tried to do was work with the land, work with the dry area, work with appropriate lot sizes so that it fits into the neighborhood and basically becomes an extension of Bridle Road, which is what this would be. Comes right off the end of Bridle. Those catch basins still exist. We still grab all the water from Bridle Road and send it right through this property. We're also gathering all of the water from the proposed roadway, the driveways, and the single-family house roofs. The roofs are going to be discharged into infiltration systems for each roof. Everything else goes through deep sump-putted catch basins to a forebay to a detention pond, which is there on the lower right-hand side of the plan, which would then overflow into the wetland area that's adjacent to Misty Meadow Road. Even in that area there, we've made the pond. You can see how large it is, and that's to keep it as natural as possible. The berm on that is 3 feet high. It's not a substantial berm. It's a short berm. It'll be a grassed area that will capture all the storm water and redirect it or direct it down to where it goes today. So nothing is being discharged onto anybody's property on Bridle Road. Everybody else is uphill from us, really, except for, as you come down to Misty Meadow and go under Pine Hill. So there's a pretty substantial response here for you. Like I said, Lot 9, which is the large lot. Let's see, I'll go back to the front page because it's easier to view. The large lot outside of the subdivision, we talked to the Conservation Commission about it. They would very much like this donated to the commission. One of the things that we can do is either put it in a conservation restriction, it could be held by the property owners or the homeowners association, or we could donate it to a town entity. The Conservation Commission is very interested in this. The family is very interested and talked to the Conservation Commission about it being preserved as a wildlife habitat, period. And we made them put that into the order of conditions. They don't want to see this as recreation. They don't want to see this as agricultural. They agreed that they will work out a program to make sure that it's hayed twice a year so that it can be kept a wet meadow, and that it will essentially forever be wildlife habitat. So we'd like to propose that as part of the subdivision that's before you today in our conversations. They do not want anything to do with Misty Meadow Road or any of the culverts. So we would pull that out, and that would be owned by the homeowners association as shared with the Hamlets and the Stotts, who also own homes off of Misty Meadow Road, and maintained by those three entities. And the Conservation Commission would, or the town would have an easement over Misty Meadow Road to access Lot 9, but they wouldn't have to take care of it, which was very important to the Conservation Commission moving forward, is to not have any need to do anything to those culverts or maintain that roadway. I'm not sure if some of you were able to attend the site walk. I'm trying to go back a little bit. I think a few of you were. We did do a site walk with the Conservation Commission and walked the property all the way out to Pine Hill Road. Initially, we were going to have to loop sewer and water out to Pine Hill Road. In looking at the engineering of that, we cannot possibly physically get over and under those culverts that are existing there. So the sewer department has basically told us we can and will pump to Bridle. So each of these homes would have a grinder pump because we cannot physically get there by gravity to the Pine Hill Road sewer, which is about 1,600 feet away. We also met with the water department, who we are going to go to one of their meetings, but they've agreed to let us essentially stop at the edge of the sewer and water easement on between lots 2 and 3, so that we could leave stubs for the Stotts and the Hamlets with the potential for maybe someday looping. But we're looking at to establish a fee with Center Water to not basically build 1,600 linear feet of water main to get us back out to Pine Hill Road. So they've agreed to let us stop at the edge of the property of the subdivision and leave a stub there, and we're working out a fee with them offline. I believe that is it. There's a substantial amount of information in your packet. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have moving forward, but I hope we've answered most of your questions.
Okay. Yeah. So this seems to be mostly about water. Before we open it up, this is, of course, a public hearing. Anybody here wish to ask any additional questions or make any comments?
I've just been thinking about it, and I didn't calculate it personally. Do you know off the top of your head the slope you're going to be left with on most of your lots when the fill is there? Subdivision regulations call for, I believe, 12% max slope.
Not on lots themselves, maybe within the road. Not on lots. There's no regulations regarding single-family house lots for grading. Now,
Okay.
each of these lots has areas that have 3-to-1 slopes, which are
3-to-1
mowable.
slope, okay.
Correct. Which are mowable. Some of them have walkouts in the back where it made sense to do that. So basically, you'd have 3-to-1 slopes around the side, so you'd be able to have a walkout in the back where it met existing grade. And one of the conditions of the engineer, and we discussed this last time, some of the concerns were, well, what if somebody comes in with a different house and different grading and a different tree line? Well, one of the conditions that the engineering department has asked for was that each individual lot, when we're doing a proposed plot plan, will have an individual site plan that engineering will review as part of the building permit to make sure that it complies with the drainage plan and the tree clearing plan that we have before you today.
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea, but I'm not sure I like it. Anyway, go ahead.
Nancy?
Yeah, I have a question. The sliver of land between Lot 8 and 456, what's the purpose of leaving that with Lot 9? It just seems odd.
It wasn't planned that way. It just ended up that way once we designed it. There's really no reason. It's part of the open space. It's an area that's preserved between those two lots. It doesn't have to be there.
Yeah, I was just curious why it wasn't merged in with one or the other, because it's just a stub. Have you given any thought to mosquito control? I mean, we're having so much trouble with infections that are from the ticks and mosquitoes, and it just seems like this area is going to be infested.
Well, I'll have to tell you, I've walked it multiple times, and I walk it in white from head to toe, and I've never gotten a single tick on me. And I didn't wear spray either times I was out there. So, that's fine, but I've walked through sites in Chelmsford.
Yeah.
That's fine, but I've walked through sites in Chelmsford where I've had 20 ticks on me while walking
understand.
past the driveway.
I'm
So
just curious.
that's fine, but there's been no thought to mosquito control on a subdivision plan before the planning board.
Yeah, that would be, I think, much
It's
more,
just
much
so
more,
wet.
it would be much more Conservation Commission than us.
Yeah, it's
Any
just
case.
that it's so wet. No, that's the only question.
Okay.
Questions I had. I mean, I think most of the issues I've had have been addressed.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay,
Can you,
we have a letter? Okay.
yeah, we're not sure this was read in originally
Which one?
from DPW.
DPW? Okay.
That was last meeting, so it wasn't.
Is that the one that you have right there?
Yeah, this is it. Dear members, in addition to the comments made in the letter dated September 12th, 2018, this office has the following comments based on a meeting with the design engineers. Number one, the DPW suggests accepting a payment in lieu of installing a sidewalk along the roadway. The suggested amount is $75 per linear foot of the sidewalk. Number two, it is suggested that a homeowners association be formed, and the responsibilities include ongoing maintenance of the center island and detention basin and forebay. Number three, each lot shall require a grading and drainage plan prior to foundation building permit. Each lot has unique characteristics, and this will allow engineering review and approval prior to construction. Number four, all easement documents must be provided to this office, approved and recorded prior to building permits. Number five, soil testing must be completed for detention basin prior to planning board approval due to the unique soil conditions. Please make it a condition of approval that soil test pits must be completed prior to clearing any trees for roadway construction. All test pits to be witnessed by the town. Number six, the design engineer has received design and draft and review comments from this office. If you have any questions, please contact this office. Christina Papadopoulos, town engineer. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Would anybody from the public like to make a comment? Please step right up. Get that one back up. This one. You can have that. Let's pass that one back up to them.
I'm Barry Jefferson, 5 Bridle Road. I'm here tonight to actually introduce a letter to you folks from the Bridle Road residents. It's in the form of a petition, so I'm going to hand you the copy, and then I'm going to summarize it quickly.
Thank you. All right. Here's a...
So, here's the deal. This, there's a lot of good things to say about the proposed project, including conservation land going to the town of Chelmsford or being preserved. And I know some of the people in the engineering firm. So I'll just say there's probably a lot of good reasons for going forward. But when you do that, it's important not to not to ask if you to sacrifice for the good of the whole any more than you have to. Sometimes you don't have that choice. But in this case, there are three issues that have been raised by the residents of Bridle Road that really haven't been addressed to our satisfaction in the responses that Katie has given us. And Katie, you may want to talk some more about this tonight. If you do, I'd be happy about that. I'll just mention these. The first one, we're talking about 600-plus truckloads of fill soil to come in. And that's in addition to trucks coming up and down for tree removal, for construction vehicles, and so forth. You're talking a very small roadway, a bridle road coming off of Thomas Drive. Now, there has been discussion about the possibility of Misty Meadow being a roadway that could support some of this traffic. But right now, as it stands, from what I've read, we're looking at the possibility of 600 to 700 trucks going back and forth. I'm including the fill soil as well as construction vehicles. And that could be going on over a year or two period. We're not talking about, really quickly. This could be a long period of time. And however you look at it, that could be a very strong burden on the current residents at that area. At least that's our perception. By the way, the letter you've got has got every signature of the residents of Bridle Road and a few additional ones. And when I had the conversations with people, no one even questioned or pushed back about, well, should we really sign this? Is this really how we feel? Blah, blah, blah. Everybody unanimously has agreed to that letter. Obviously, they've signed it, but I'm just telling you in spirit, in the conversations, people feel very strongly about this. So the first issue that I mentioned has to do with the volume of fill soil and just the amount of very heavy truck traffic coming back and forth over an extended period of time. Historically, in 2004, when the town sewers went in, most of the houses, at least, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us, 5 of us, had water issues. And I remember hearing, that could happen whenever you dig up the street. The reality is yes, our houses did tie into the town drain. Whether that's legal today or not, it was obviously done by Hicks in the development, and it was approved by the town. And as a result of the sewer, a number of us had problems, water problems that we never had before. You can argue that won't happen again because we've dealt with our problems in different ways. But it would sure make me feel a lot better, and I know the other neighbors would feel a lot better knowing that when they dig up Bridle Road to put in, or that be underground power that they're going to be doing, gas, sewer, water, that is disruptive. Anybody in engineering, I'm sure the DPW will tell you, when you dig up streets like this, you can cause disruption. And Bridle Road has had a very strong history of expenses. And I personally, it cost me about $15,000 to put in sump pumps and to have special piping run down into the rear of the lot. And I had to have a trench dug down there and run the water down to get it away from the house because my avenues for coming out to the storm drain system had been shut off. So hopefully I won't have to worry about that happening again, but it could be an issue. And I think it's not unreasonable to ask some form of protection for the residents for this. The last is the road, the home at 8 Bridle Road is next to Lot 1. And they will be having a little bit of a property value drop when you have when Lot 1 is coming in quite close. I don't know the numbers off the top of the head, but you can see, well, you can actually see it visually quite well from here. So here is 8 Bridle Road, and here is Lot 1. The request was, okay, we understand why this house has to be here. You've got wetlands. You can't just pull that house further away. It'd be nice, but you can't do it. But some tree protection along here would be an awfully nice thing to help mitigate the impact on this homeowner. So I'd like to, in the end, what I'd like to do is ask you folks to keep these issues in mind and maybe hold off final approval until we can get a little bit more protection. Again, this is a balance between how much, for the good of the whole, can we ask a few people to sacrifice. And I presented my case, but that's something you'll have to evaluate, and I hope you'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Katie, got any thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So regarding the truck traffic, this is not going to be built by the family that owns this. This is going to be sold to a developer. They are not developers, they are homeowners. The reason that they went forward with the permitting of this was to preserve what they wanted to be done on their property. And it was very important for them to make sure that a developer didn't come in here and ask you for a permit to develop the whole property. They wanted to see this as preserved as possible. In saying that, there will be construction vehicles. This is a 40-acre parcel. We're building on 7 acres of it. There will be some tree clearing associated with that. There will be some fill material based on the plan that we have before you today. We don't know if it's going to be built one lot at a time, if the road's going to be built, and then certainly the road will have to be built first, and then the lots could be sold off individually. We're talking trucks over the course of, we don't really know how long, and it's a public road. Bridle Road is a public road. Anything and everything that we do in it is controlled by your Department of Public Works. We'll need to seek permits from them to trench the road. They will be required to inspect the road and decide what we need to do to the road to bring it back up to town standards. It's the same right that anybody else that lives on a road in the town of Chelmsford has. Regarding water problems and going into the road, certainly from what I've heard from the neighbors, the pictures that I've seen, the water problems on Bridle runs straight down fast and furious until it hits the 2 catch basins right at our property line. Those 2 catch basins take the entire Bridle. Those are the only 2 catch basins that I saw on Bridle. They take all of Bridle's drainage, and it runs through our lot and creates that intermittent stream. We're keeping that going. We're not putting any more water towards Bridle Road. We're actually capturing all of the water that we're producing and putting it in a new stormwater management system that meets Massachusetts stormwater management standards, has been approved by your town engineer and DEP, and your Conservation Commission. As far as the reduction in both CFS and volume of water that's leaving the site. We will be trenching in Bridle Road. We do need to connect to underground utilities. As far as I know, there are no other drains that are tied in, and the 2 homes at the end of Bridle Road, 8, and the one on the southern side, 8 doesn't have any water issues because they're actually up higher than Lot 1. Their elevation is about 205, and I believe we're about 199. Their house is actually up significantly higher than Lot 1 is. So they don't have any drainage problems, and the lot on the lower corner actually drains to Misty Meadows, which as part of that drainage ditch comes onto the property, and that's how the foundation drain leaves that subject property. As far as Lot 1 is concerned, Lot 1 meets RB zoning. We're not asking, the only thing it doesn't meet is frontage. It meets setbacks more than the setback that's required by RB. RB is only a 25-foot side setback. We're further than that with the house. We're lower than the house at the end of Bridle, and the house at 8 Bridle has been on the market now for weeks and apparently was going to be put on the market prior to this project even being approved, and is cleared right up to their property line. So whoever buys Lot 1 should have within their rights the ability to clear what they would like to, as everyone else on that street, as 8 Bridle Road has cleared right up to their stone wall. We're proposing on our plan that they would clear within about 5 or 10 feet of that property line, but there is a stone wall there that is not going to be touched as part of this. It is a property line. And we are collecting all of the drainage from Lot 1 and sending it through our subdivision and not towards Bridle Road. So we feel that the impact of Lot 1 meets the standards that are before you in your zoning bylaw, so in excess. So it's any house that would be located in an RB zoning district would be located as this house has been. It's not any closer. We're not getting any special setback provisions for Lot 1 because we're in a planned open space development. And truck traffic, we did talk about the potential for using Misty Meadows Road. It is a gravel road. There are 2 very old culverts. Is it a possibility? Yes. Do we want you to condition that we can only come in Misty Meadow Road essentially when the wetlands is right up to the side of it, the riverfront, the floodplain is right through it? You know, certainly if it makes sense for the developer to go up Misty Meadows Road, they might have to reinforce those culverts to do so, and it could be a possibility, would be closer for them from the highway to get in that way. But Bridle Road is a town public road that we should be allowed to use for construction of a project at this location. I mean, those are my answers to the questions that were before you. So certainly, any feedback that you have, anything that you feel that we could do to lessen any more of the impacts on the neighbors, I think we've designed a well-designed plan for the acreage that we're talking about. So let me know.
Yeah, now having said that, I don't have an issue with the plan itself. I did do the site walk. But Mr. Jefferson has raised an interesting question. It's just not Bridle Road. It's all the roads leading up to Bridle Road. So, I mean, you're coming off Old Westford, you have to go down Cathy and get your way over to Bridle Road. And you got 600 truckloads of fill coming in, which is unusual, obviously, unusual amount for a project that's only going to construct 6 homes. If there's a way that we can mitigate, that's 600 truckloads coming down our residential streets. If there's a way at all that we can consider mitigating that, I think that would be prudent.
Well, I have to say that it is obviously a finite project. It's a construction project that will have a beginning and end. It's not forever. And also, we're not required to show you the single-family house construction. So there could be very different lot configurations. We are showing you one that works, that keeps the homes outside of the water table to keep them from having to pump their foundations. But we could show you a road with 6 lots off of it, and each individual homeowner has the right to do, as you do, as anyone on this board, has the right to grade their lot the way they want to. This is providing protections to the new homeowners, to the town, to the abutters, the fact that we're coming in and conditioning every single lot, any change that have to go through your engineering department to ensure that we're meeting the requirements. You're not just going to go get a foundation permit and go to town.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about the design, the layout of the houses at all. I'm more concerned about the 600 truckloads of dirt
So
coming in.
if that was a year, that's less than 2 trucks a day, 2 vehicles a day.
If that's what we can
2
do, that's
vehicles a
fine.
day,
But
yeah.
I hate to have 14 truckloads coming down in an hour down Cathy Road. That's all.
Yeah,
If there's
that
just a
doesn't-
way
yeah,
that we
that
could
doesn't happen.
Maybe work that into our approval. I mean, something.
I don't think we can.
I don't think you
They have
can.
to
It's a
think
public
about it.
road.
It's a town-owned road, they paid
Yeah.
registrations and taxes.
Well,
You know, if you could use Misty Meadow, I'd prefer that. Just because I'm living through it now with Turnpike Road, I get 10 tractor trailers going back and forth all day long, and it's aggravating. I'd rather have you use Misty Meadow. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but like Donnie said, you're gonna go up Old Westford Road, up through the back roads, and it's gonna be, it's not just gonna impact Bridle, all the other roads going to.
Right. No, I understand. There's just not a restriction. There's not a restriction on your residential streets that, you know, anybody on Bridle Road can have 12 yards of loam delivered any day they want. So what I'm saying is that certainly this is a special permit before this board. We will work with this board to do what's in the best interest of the neighborhood. We will explore Misty Meadows Road, but there's work to be done there as far as the culverts and whether they can withstand the weight of truck traffic over a long period of time and what those culverts are going to need to take. And there's still neighborhoods on that end that these trucks will still need to go through. So certainly to lessen the impact on Bridle, you know, it's a consideration.
Yeah, I just hope the developer will be sensitive to the neighbors. You're right, if it's just
Understood.
2 truckloads a day, that's not overwhelming. But if you got them backed up, that could be an issue.
I'm afraid if you,
Yeah, we'll get you up in a sec.
I'm afraid if you send all them trucks down Misty Meadow where it's wet already.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
You're
a
gonna
high
have a
water
problem.
table. As you're driving over it, it's like a pump. You're gonna suck the water up and you're gonna wipe that road out.
Okay.
Like bringing that much truck traffic over a wet road. You just can't do it.
No,
They
I'm
would
not
have to
suggesting use
literally build
Misty
a road
Meadows. I'm
there.
suggesting-
You'd have to literally
You'd have to
build a real road
A
there.
real road.
Right.
And nobody's gonna put a 1,500-foot road in
No.
just to get trucks in and out.
I'm not suggesting
That's
using
silly.
Misty Meadows, I'm suggesting we just need to be sensitive to the neighborhood. as we're
Absolutely.
Bringing in all the fill.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, why don't we take a quick, like a 5-minute break, and then continue along with the public hearing. I know we have some people here that want to say something, and we'll get you up next.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Where you take us. I know what you mean.
No.
You should have been filming it.
chased the beer with
Only bigger. Okay,
All right.
we all, we ready to get back underway here? All right. Let's see, do you have any more you want to say? Let's bring up, I know you wanted to say some more. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up to something Katie said. So she's talking about 600 truckloads.
Yeah.
right? And that doesn't include construction. It doesn't include tree removal. It doesn't even talk about, as somebody brought up, parking of construction vehicles down along Bridle Road and in the cul-de-sac and so forth. But here's the thing, when you talk about the numbers, say only 2 a day. Okay, mathematically, it comes out, if you had 2 a day, you could do 600 plus. But it's like Chinese water torture. 2 a day, every day. It's not for a couple of months. It's not while they're paving Thomas Drive. We can put up with that. But when you talk about a 2-year period, and it's going to be more than 2, because on the weekends, presumably, they're not going to be doing work. So now you're talking Monday through Friday, and you could be doing 3, 4, 5 truckloads. The point is, it's going to be a constant over a long period of time, and Katie can't guarantee that this is going to have some kind of a time frame. So that's just my response to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to get up and speak? I got one from the back, and then have you. Either way, just identify yourself and.
To control. Marion Hamlet, 40 Misty Meadow Road. So I love the discussion around the construction vehicles and completely understand the disruption to the residential areas. But I just wanted to paint a little picture of what the roads look like. So Bridle Road is a paved road, public road, 50 feet wide. 2 vehicles can pass going in either direction. Misty Meadow Road is a dirt road, a lot of potholes, washboarding. Culverts are failing. There was a sinkhole there last year that we needed to replace. It's 15 feet wide. 2 cars cannot pass in either direction. We have to pull off to the side of the road. So, and the residents own the maintenance of the road. So if construction vehicles are going up and down the road, understandably that some vehicles may have to go up and down Misty Meadow Road, is that there be some provision or some protection in there that the maintenance from the damage that is created by the trucks during and after, that the road be repaired. So by the contractor, by the construction company. So that the burden isn't put on the residents for the maintenance.
Okay.
And it is, what Glenn was talking about as far as the heavy trucks coming in, there was one area of Misty Meadow Road that was like quicksand because of all the traffic that was going up and down there.
Thank you. Very good. Evan, what's the nature of that road? Is that public, private? What is it?
Misty Meadow?
Yeah.
It's private.
Private.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are they under any obligation to even allow the truck traffic on it?
It's owned by the part of the 40 acres, so that's why it's being discussed.
Okay.
This process.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one question and one comment. My name is Rhonda Gilbert. I live on Thomas Drive, and I do abut one of the lots. And I have just a question about, you did a great job of explaining a lot of the water stuff, but it's not my area of expertise. So when you cut down trees, does that not raise the water table? Yeah, well, and then I have one comment. This is not here nor there, but ticks and mosquitoes are a problem. You can't walk in my we paid hundreds of dollars to get the ticks taken care of just because they're so absolutely terrible in our yard, so it is an issue.
Just to respond to that, when you take the trees down, you are increasing the runoff on property. So essentially, the trees are no longer taking in the rainfall, and the rainfall is going elsewhere, which is why we're capturing it in this pond. So essentially, what we do in stormwater management is we're looking at a pre-development condition and a post-development condition, and it changes the runoff of the property when you switch something from a treed lot over a certain soil to a paved, to a house, to grass, to bushes, and we put that all into our programs to determine whether or not we're increasing runoff, which is why there's stormwater management planned on this lot. And regarding ticks and mosquitoes, I agree. We live in New England. It's an issue in general, but it's not a requirement of subdivision approval.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. Okay, anybody else from the public who would like to say something? Oh, come on up. Let us know who you are.
McLaren Harris, I live at 7 Bridle Road. That was the end lot next to the Hennessy property. My concern, again, back to the old saw of traffic, is to remind ourselves that Bridle Road, they say it's paved road, 50 feet wide, publicly accepted road, therefore no restrictions. Well, let's look at it. There's a right angle turn from Bridle to Thomas. There's all the way down 3/4 of a mile down Thomas to get to Old Westford. So you're passing with trucks and all that, you're passing an awful lot of established properties, making this right turn and then coming down. And as they say, we don't know where they're going to park. Especially before that road is constructed, they'll be parking up and down Bridle Road, I presume, and maybe on Thomas Drive as well. But the thing is that if this is going to go on for a lengthy period of time, because all of the lots aren't going to be developed at the same time, this process could stretch out over, as Barry said, 2 years easily, maybe longer, a lot at a time. And so there's a kind of an extended period of possible disruption. Now, the Hitchin Post 1, which is what we're talking about here, Hitchin Post 1 was built back in the 60s, early 60s, maybe the late 50s to the early 60s, or the mid 60s. That was a tremendous project. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of houses were put in there, and I don't know how much fill was brought in, probably not all that much. Some on Bridle Road, some on Livery Road, I don't know where else. But remember then, there were no houses around there. There were no neighborhoods. All they had to do was cut the trees, and they didn't clear cut them, by the way. Cut the trees, get them out. They had free access to the whole project. Now we're talking about bringing in these 600-odd trucks into an area that's established, where children are playing, where school buses are coming back and forth, as well as all of the residential streets, the trips, I should say. So that's basically my concern, is it's an established neighborhood, and we're going to put an awful lot of stress on it.
That's quite true. Okay. Anybody else? Step on up.
I'm Michael Kramer with a K, and I'm on 6 Bridle. I live across the street from Barry. And you may remember me from the, month and a half ago when we had a meeting here, as the person who owned the Steinway grand piano that flooded out.
Expensive.
I have not yet done the repairs in my home for all the damage that flood created. I don't know where to start, but that's neither here nor there right now. I just want to say that I have been in discussions with Barry and with Mac Harris and others in my neighborhood, And I wholeheartedly agree with them. In fact, some of the points they brought up were some of the points that I raised as well. But the reason I wanted to speak to you is because this brings up a certain nightmare for me that I would like to tell you about. Because I think in the midst of all the facts and the figures that there are some things that are being left out. I used to live in Woburn, Massachusetts. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with the movie A Civil Action starring John Travolta and what went on there. The cancerous wells that people were drinking out of, and a town that just didn't really seem to give a damn about the people who were living there. Well, to make a long story short, my family and I just simply said, to hell, I'm sorry for my language, to hell with this, and we got out. We just left. We didn't wait for anything to happen, and we found out later that nothing did happen. These kids got various forms of cancer, et cetera, et cetera. We're glad we got out of there. We moved to Chelmsford because the house we bought was a house on a dead end, off of a dead end. And we figured that this would be our final resting place. And for so many years, we were able to brag to the general public that we lived in such an area. Well, I see the nightmare coming back, and I can tell you that where we used to live in Woburn, we had trucks, not necessarily construction trucks, but we had catering trucks, we had natural gas delivery trucks going 24 hours a day. Not just during the day, but these were trucks that would, some of which would start at like 3 in the morning. And you want to talk about a nightmare scenario. Well, I can see this happening again. And I just don't want to be driven from this home that my parents and I have loved for so many decades. My parents are now dead. I've taken over the house, and it looks like history just may repeat itself. And I would also like to say, yeah, maybe I'm getting a bit emotional when I say this, but I am willing to sell my home to Katie and her organization. I will give you a good price on it if you want it, and perhaps you might even like to spend a week during this high time when the trucks will be coming in and out, and then we'll see if you sing a different tune. You see what it's actually like. And it very much compromises our right for the enjoyment of living in my property. It's not pleasant. And I suggest, and I implore you all to think about this issue as well. Not just the facts and figures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I would love to speak.
Sure.
Just for a moment. I won't even go to some places. This is 5 new single-family residences. There's 6 on the plan, but 1 is going away because the lot at 24 Misty Meadows Road house is being taken down. So there are 5 new homes being proposed. 6 altogether on this road and 1's being taken away. Again, single-family house lots, a dead-end road, which now will be a dead-end road forever. because the town will own the land exterior of that. Single-family homes, dead-end road, 40 acres. They just happened to be the last ones in and got to take everybody else's drainage, which is why it's so wet. We are giving the town 26 acres of a 40-acre parcel to get 5 new single-family house lots. I appreciate the concerns. I would love the opportunity to live in Chelmsford. I do not.
You should.
Most of these trucks are going to be coming through during normal business hours. If this subdivision were to be built on my road, I would never see a truck because I am not home between the hours of 7:30 and 6 every day. I agree, people will be home. There will be kids outside. There will be kids playing. It is a public road. There are safeties to be taken. We will do the best we can to be sensitive to the neighbors. There are construction hours when vehicles will be allowed to be on site. There are days when they are allowed to be on site. This is not a 24-hour-a-day operation. It is a single-family house subdivision, period. And again, if there's anything else that you need from me tonight, certainly I hope that I have answered all of the questions and concerns, and it's something that could be conditioned.
Thank you.
May I suggest that we continue the hearing, allow staff to draft a decision?
Yes.
During the next couple of weeks, I will reach out to the board members, ask you for some of your input. I think one of the keys to this decision is a construction staging and sequencing plan.
Right.
As some
Yes.
of you recall, we have a 2-year time limit on completion of the roadway. We can also do similar provisions for completion of other parts of the subdivision project. There may be a provision that we can put in there where we don't know who the developer is, we don't know what their plan for building the road and the lots. We can put a condition in that requires them to come back to the board to present some sort of plan. So there's a variety of different conditions that we could consider. But I don't think we're going to be able to wordsmith those
Right.
this
No,
evening.
we can't do that tonight. I agree with you. I think starting with a good, solid draft is very much the way for us to proceed.
Yeah, but I think we also have to recognize that this is a subdivision plan, not a building plan.
Right.
Oh, agreed, but one of the
What we're
examples
looking at
is-
here is lot layouts, streets, and drainage.
It's also the
considerations.
the
Got
building
you.
of the infrastructure related to the lots. So, I'm not certain that the board conditions are off limits related to the development of the individual lots and the sequencing and
Yeah.
timing of that.
You may be, given
I'd like
the
to
relationship
reach
to
out
the
council on
infrastructural
that.
build-out. Yeah.
And if there is if it's fair game, then I think we have reasonable conditions to provide some level of predictability related to the timing. So, for example, we've heard tonight that it could take 2 years to build the 5 lots.
Could take more than that.
Well, the board doesn't necessarily need to allow that to occur, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Just like we require less than 2 years to build the roadway. So let me talk to council.
Okay.
See what kind of authority we have on the build-out of the lots and
We'll get
bringing
to
in
you,
the
don't
fill.
worry.
That way we can condense the time
Yeah.
frame for.
Okay, I think that's
serving.
reasonable. Yeah, see what you can do.
In that each of these lots will require a building plan, as requested by whoever. Why would the building time frame not be applicable to the approval of each one of those building plans, not to the subdivision plan? I mean, I can understand why the build-out of the street time frame is conditioned on the subdivision plan. But if each one of these lots requires their own building plan approval, I can't for the life of me imagine why we would condition the timing
I'm not talking about the timing of
on
the
the
actual.
subdivision plan.
I'm talking about the tree clearing and bringing in the fill, which is critical to the subdivision
Right.
plan as shown. I'm not talking about the individual building permits.
Okay. I gotta,
Yeah, go ahead.
you're gonna love me in about 3 minutes. If you were gonna take a vote on this tonight, I would say no, period. Okay, Many of us sitting at this table love regulations, love to write words for regulations. I think what we all need to do is read Article 18, Planned Open Space Development. It runs for 5 pages. It outlines exactly how a planned open space development goes. First of all, it doesn't appear to allow for this kind of, I don't know what a good word is, loosey-goosey type of plan where where somebody's going to sell to maybe a developer, and they may develop a lot this way or that way. What it calls for is for the way I read it. And I'm not a lawyer, and I'm sure you're going to get the town attorney in, and we're going to be dueling again, but it appears to call for a fairly a site plan in addition to the final subdivision plan shall be recorded after the POS is approved. As a minimum, this site plan shall show the entire development, including lots, roads, easements, open space, phases of development, any recreational uses of buildings to be considered in the open space and any pond streams development. This plan shall be approved by the planning board before it is recorded. Okay, that's one condition. 195-96, part of this. We're supposed to have the deed restriction documents written by an attorney as part of the submissions here. I don't know if you put them in the package. I don't think I saw them in the package, Katie. You're a fine engineer, but there's a lot of stuff here that goes beyond the engineering. We're supposed to have a description of the easements and restrictions on affected land. I haven't seen the easements on Misty Meadow Road or any of that stuff. We're supposed to have under 195-97 a sample of the purchase and sale agreements for these lots. And I don't want to read you the 3 paragraphs in that, but basically it describes that they're subject to the POS and all its requirements and their liability for the open space. And finally, the decision by the planning board, 195-98. And this is a cute one. We don't have to write any new words here. A, the planning board shall not approve a POS development in an established single-family neighborhood where, in its determination, such land use will be inconsistent with or will have a detrimental effect upon the surrounding property. If the planning board denies a POS based on this section, it shall identify this as a reason for denial. There's more in there. What I would recommend is that every member of my fellow members read the language of 195 of Article 18. And if Evan's going to put together a draft decision between now and then, it's going to, next week or the week after, it's going to be a doozy according to this. And we got to have a ton of stuff in there. Or basically, I'm voting no. Okay?
All makes sense. Again,
Yeah.
it's been probably almost over 10 years since
Since
the
we've
board
done
has
one, yeah.
approved an open space cluster. So what I'll do is I'll start by looking at the previous
Yeah.
Decisions.
You sort of did Alicia Way as sort of a
Yep, but it's
open
gonna be,
space.
it's gonna
That
be a
was only
refresher.
3 years ago or
Yep,
so.
It's gonna be a refresher for all of us. My understanding is that all of the provisions that you just read off are conditions of approval. But I'll take a closer look at the previous decisions, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I think this is complex enough that we should start with a well-thought-out draft rather than try to create elements of it before we have the draft in front of us. At least that would be my take, but your point's well taken.
We still need
It's a good read.
We still need elements here to
Yeah.
be submitted.
These are all, if I may, these are all elements that could not and cannot be submitted until this process happened. As far as what Lot 9 is going to be.
Katie, and all your intelligence as an engineer.
These are all conditions of approval. All conditions of
They're
approval
not
and would be.
conditions of approval, they're separate items as part of our Chelmsford bylaws. And it states very specifically that we're supposed to have these in hand. We've had these on other projects. And anyway, I've preached enough, and I think I've made my position pretty clear.
Okay. Very good. Let's go with the draft and see where it takes us. I think what you might want to do, Evan, while you're working on that, and we should probably all do this at some degree, just compare what you've got to what we have available for materials. If there are any additional materials, I'm sure we can arrange to get them. We'll see what they might be. And you know how to reach Paul Haverty, so if questions come up, it's going to be interesting. Now, we are still in public hearing. It strikes me that we're going to have to go to another session, certainly, to look at a draft. That being the case, it would probably be a wise idea to continue the public hearing.
A motion to continue.
Second. I have a motion to continue in second. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's 6-0. All right, we'll go with that, and get a copy of that to us whenever you can, and to Katie, and we'll go to work on it.
November 14th would be the next
November
hearing, correct?
14th? That good? Okay, so we're continuing this to November 14th. That's quite the project. Okay. Good. All right. Okay, we have meeting minutes. We've got one set of minutes here. I've read them over.
Me too.
Okay. Anybody want some time to read them? We can do that. Otherwise, I'm good.
Yeah, my only comment on the minutes is that generally for this type of a document, using a last name only without a prefix is not quite appropriate.
Huh?
You also came late for this meeting, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I believe.
That should be
I think
noted.
it's noted there, isn't it,
That should
somewhere?
be noted.
Yeah, your arrival, it's on
Yeah,
the
it's-
second page.
It notes
Yeah.
it on
It's
the
noted.
last page.
Anyway. I've never liked it, but that's the way it is.
Okay.
What?
Yes.
You've never liked what? That I came late?
No. Use of the last name.
Oh, no, I mean, it's not, using the last name only without a mister is just not appropriate.
Or a Ms. or a.
Yeah, or whatever, but
Whatever you might be.
it should have
Okay.
something.
Well, that's an editorial change.
It's an
but
editorial
You might mention
change,
it to her.
But please
I
mention
think
it.
if she could
It's
incorporate
rude.
that. Any
Jamaicans call me
wanna-
Carly all the
commentary?
time.
Yeah, I'd take a motion, unless somebody.
I can accept it from them.
Unless we have some real changes, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of, what the hell are we talking about? October 10th, 2018.
Second. I came back.
Let the record show that he came back.
He made a motion.
Yeah. That's pretty good evidence. Okay,
Are you gonna vote up?
all right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the minutes are
Abstain.
passed. Now, we have our next meeting. There's some things worthy of some discussion at this point. One thing is, we did pull the chicken article from the warrant for fall, but it's a matter that's going to need to be discussed, and I would propose that I have something of an informal chat with the Board of Health and with perhaps with one of the animal control officers, and see if we can put together a framework I did talk to people on both sides of this at town meeting, and I think there's some reasonable chance that we're going to get to some consensus, or at least a lot closer than we were when we started this process. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to start by doing that, and then we'll see. And we have plenty of time between now and April. So if that's okay with everybody, I'll just proceed in that
Perfect sense.
direction. I want to mention the Route 40 committee. It's had 2 meetings. It's going to have the third one. I think Tuesday, is it? The 30th?
October 30th,
I think
yeah.
it's the 30th.
I will be there. I think we're getting close to the point where we'll actually start talking about, honing, coming down from 30,000 feet to maybe 10,000 feet. But we'll see where that goes. I got to say, Pam Armstrong is doing a pretty good job. And I think it's going fairly well so far. But again, it's going to be a process, and we'll see. Thank you to you guys for being on it. Do we have any other committee-related stuff that anybody needs to mention? Or wants to mention?
No NEMCOG.
NEMCOG. Okay. Now, we do have something we do probably want to think about a little bit is we had the historic, well, I don't know what exactly you call that.
Historic
motion.
preservation
Oh, it's historic-
article?
Yeah, the historic preservation article. It didn't pass, but there was a lot of good discussion about it, and there clearly is a lot of sentiment out there for doing something. And I think if we just take a look at what the comments were and draft ahead, maybe we can bring something up for April. I don't know. Can you do that,
I'm willing to do that, yeah.
Evan? You wanna, the two of you?
Whatever happens, the historical has to be on board with it, so I can't.
Well, Historic was on board with it until the night before the meeting, so.
Yeah, that was.
And then they decided that they were unanimously not on board with it.
That's horrible.
Although I
Yeah.
think it's fair to say they were not violently not on board with it, but they raised some concerns that
They were.
occurred to them late in the game.
They were unanimously not on board with it at that point.
If they come up with a
So-
plan like Lexington has, I think it would have an awful hard time making it in Chelmsford.
Right.
Which is, I think, what they're looking for. That's my
Yeah.
own comment, because I've dealt with that in the
Yeah.
past. It's,
Yeah, I grew up in Lexington.
Yeah.
I can tell you what that's like. Let's see. Okay, you take that. The next thing is, it really is getting to be time to talk about the master plan. Now, I was kind of hoping to get things started midsummer, and then all kinds of stuff fell out of the sky on us. I think we've dug most of the way through.
Mr. Zalaroulis, who was on it before, has offered to chip in and help.
Yes, well,
I don't know if he mentioned it to you or not.
I kind of assumed it.
Yeah, we could draft them.
Yeah, we can draft them. I mean, I don't want to go appointing people right now or exactly forming the committee, but if folks that think about what, whether you'd like to be on it, how you'd like to be associated with it, I mean, I will invite myself to it anyway, just because I'm the chairman and I can. But
Just a quick thought on that, not
Yeah,
to
go
belabor
ahead.
the meeting, but I think we've talked about general consensus that it's an
Yes.
update.
I think that's
I think one item that the
we-
board
we-
needs to further resolve. I think the
Mhm.
other item is whether it's an update or whether it's something else, what's the scope and scale of community engagement
Mhm.
that's warranted based upon whatever your goals and objectives are? Is it an update or is it something else? At the end of the day, looking back,
Yeah.
you've seen examples where the master plan is used to support and argue against the
Yes.
same project.
Mhm.
And increasingly, that's going to be the blueprint or model, particularly as rezoning and UMass West Campus and some of the signature remaining development opportunities come to fruition. So while I think the plan was nice in the sense that it was robust and
Yeah.
very verbose, you know, hindsight being 2020, I'm not sure it's going to serve anyone's interest moving forward if it can be argued both sides. So I think we need to figure out how the planning board wants this document to be used,
Right.
based upon kind of what we know, the way it has been used for the last 10 years. There's pros and cons to it. That's my only,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
what I struggle with.
I think that's a very fair commentary. My own gut feel is that this time around, we probably want to look more to an extensive update than to a start from scratch rewrite. And I say this in part because there's an awful lot of good stuff that made it onto the master plan
Just
10 years ago, and there's no
high-level
reason to
themes,
change it.
High-level themes. So,
Right.
for example, if the planning board believes that UMass West Campus, just taking that as
Yeah.
an example, is appropriate for development,
Then we
and they
ought to say so.
identify what kind of development,
Mhm.
then it should say that.
Yep.
But it shouldn't say, you know, you shouldn't be able to use the open space preservation section of the master plan to
Gotta
argue against.
beat up on that one, yeah.
Right, so it needs to be a bit more pointed based upon what we know is kind of on the horizon.
Well, I think you make a good point, and when you do a document like that, when you do a plan like that, one step that people often overlook is after you've got the plan together, then you go through and you kind of pairwise look at all the things in there and see how they interact, and very often you will discover interactions that you had not expected as you were stepping through your list of topics in a sequential way.
Right, so I think
Yeah.
we continue to think about it, and maybe we'll put it on the agenda for the next
Please
meeting.
have her put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
You know,
and
board needs
let's
to resolve,
try
I
to
think,
get
at
that
least those
underway.
two issues to kind of set the stage for realistic expectations as we appoint people.
Now, and one more thing I'd like to bring up. I know Nancy has done some extensive work looking at the current zoning and how,
Yeah, residential zoning.
yeah, and
Residential zoning versus residential usage. So, at this point, I really need to get a updated copy with a couple extra data fields.
this is from the
From-
assessors.
From the assessor's database. And I'd like to commit to providing some demographic data, some statistics around that in the December timeframe.
Okay.
I think we're so close to November that trying to do that before Thanksgiving is not really viable, but that the month gives me enough time to both get a copy and
Okay.
do some assessments of the data. And then let's just see what the data says, and from there, we can decide if we want to do anything with it, and then what we want to do with it.
I mean, there is the underlying observation, what did you say, like 80% of the lots in town are non-conforming on lot size
I think 80% of the RBs are non.
of the RBs?
The lot
You know, that
size.
kind of tells you, you really need to make the rules match the real usage as much as you can. Okay, well, you can go to work on that. Anybody got a topic they'd like to bring up?
No, just on this,
Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Ed.
I thought I know what you got.
Go ahead, Ed.
just on this non-conforming stuff on the RB. Since I got into town in the 70s and late, I've come to understand why they went to RB of 1 acre because of the septic systems.
Right.
And they actually, for instance, in my house, which was built in 78, it required 2 approved leach fields.
Yeah.
And they had realized that these smaller 20,000
Wouldn't
square
support
foot
it.
lots were killing it. also what's gonna happen, for instance, if you convince the town meeting to rezone down to 20,000 square feet, on my street alone, we can put in 8 new houses. Legally, with the right frontage and everything, because of the way the leach fields were all designed. And this is starting in the mid-70s. So that's why there's sort of a disconnect in your data. It's because they started realizing, or they realized the need for larger lots on leach fields.
Yeah.
And then in the late 80s and 90s, sewers came along.
Doors came in and they didn't need it anymore.
Right.
Well,
I just wanted to comment
Yeah.
on
well,
that.
I think,
No, it's good to know where it came from.
Yeah.
It was the
what
need
drove
for,
it.
it was the
Yeah.
need for leach fields.
Yeah.
right. And that was true in a lot of towns. I think what we need to be particularly cognizant of is trying not to change character of neighborhoods. And I'm guessing that what we might come up with studying this would not be simply a change all ERB.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, it's
just
gonna be much
pointing
more
that out.
sophisticated than that.
I think it needs to be.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a project underway. Anybody else got any projects?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Hey.
All in favor?
There you go.
Has anybody been following the score? I haven't.